Okay, next we're going to go over some quick lighting techniques. Lighting in Lumion is pretty straightforward, just in terms of, creating spotlights or ceiling lights, anything like that. All of your lights live under your little lights tab over here, so you'll click that, then click the place button. You've got three types. You have spotlights, omni lights, and area lights. You can go through and experiment with each one, but they are pretty much just as they show. Spotlight is something that shines a light in a direction from a single point in space. Omni lights are kind of like area lights. They emit light outwards from a point in all directions. And area lights are basically a square or a rectangle that emits light in a single direction. So let's create a spotlight. Just click this. I'm going to place it down on the scene. And then I'm going to click the arrow tab to open up my move tools. I'm going to constrain myself to move up. Hover over, click and drag. And that's going to move that spotlight up. Now it'll disappear when it goes into the ceiling, so you want to make sure that it still shows. And then I can constrain left and right and kind of move this thing into the space or out of the space. I think there's a little lip here, so you just want to be aware of that. And you also have all these options that pop up. You can adjust the brightness, the cone angle, and you can adjust the show light source. We'll give you like a little light up here. Night activation, I think that has to do with your time settings. If you set your scene time to something that's at night, the light will automatically turn on. I've seen animations that transition from daytime to nighttime and the lights flick on. That's how you would control that. And then shadows, you can, either one of these. Dynamic, it's going to be a longer rendering than high or medium, so I just stick it to high and that would be okay. You also have this little target up at the top, so if you click that, you can change where your light is pointing to. And then click the back button. So that's spotlight. Place an omni light. Stick it down, go back to your arrow tool. Let's click and drag this thing up into space. And then in order to see this, you really need to up the brightness. But you'll notice it just kind of emits light in all directions. And then the fall off is how far out it reaches or dies off. And then area light, create one of those. Back to the arrow tool, move this guy upwards. It looks like it just created another omni light, so let's delete that. Let's go back into our, got it. I accidentally clicked the toggle favorite rather than selecting the light. So we'll select the light, place it, click the arrow tool, and move this guy upwards. This is just slightly different than the spotlight. You'll notice it doesn't really give you a ring around the floor. It's more of like an area of light with a nice kind of blur as it falls off. And then we can change the width, the length of the square or area, fall off, and the brightness. And you can also change colors too. And again, you have this target light, so you can target where this thing shines if you need to. The spotlight is going to be good for things like lamps, table lamps, things like that. Anything that has kind of a direction to it. The area lights are more for like ceiling lights, office lights, those kinds of things. And then the omni lights would be good for like if you just have a light bulb in open space. So you guys can mess around with those. What you'll notice is these are just light sources. So anytime you place one of these, if you want to get a little bit more realistic, you actually have to create a light. Whether you don't really need to create the bulb, but you need sort of like a light fixture. Lumion has a whole bunch kind of pre-made. So you can click this little indoor tab, highlight your place, and then under lighting, you've got all these set lights. So you have a bunch of floor lamps, and then you've got some look like rail lamps, and you've got some kind of hanging spot lamps. So I'm just going to make one of these real quick. Place it down. It's there. It's just under the floor, so I'm going to move it up and then let it just sit right underneath that ceiling spot. Okay. And then I'm going to go back to my lights. So these all turn on. I'm going to move this point or spotlight to be as close to the center of my fixture as I can get it. Do that. Fortunately, I don't think there's really any way to snap it. But that's pretty good. And then what you want to do is set the target of the light so that it looks like it's coming perpendicular off of your light source. So I'm going to just set this way out here, kind of pan over this way. It's pretty close, but not quite. So I'm going to just kind of set it there. That's pretty good. All right, so you just basically align the light's source with your fixture. You can go around and add all sorts of lights to your scene. It's pretty important. It really can bump up the quality of your renderings, so you can really take some time to mess around with that kind of stuff. I would say, spend some time on exterior lighting where it's really going to show up in some of these videos, especially if that's, what all the videos are looking at. Don't spend time setting up a ton of lights for the inside if you're only doing stuff on the outside. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.